first developed cognitive therapy, you primarily had the here and now approach. And it seems to me that you started to think about things a little bit differently when you really put your focus on the treatment, the conceptualization and treatment of personality disorders.
Yeah. So this was kind of appalling because we would get a patient come in with depression. Now, let me start back historically. When I first started treating patients, there was no competition from medications. So the people were pharmacologically naive and probably naive in other ways. So they're really great to deal with. And it took about 10 sessions that people would get better. Then as time went on, we started getting what you call secondary level people who had already been to a general practitioner. They hadn't done well on pharmacotherapy and so on. So they weren't the nice, ripe, juicy cases that I had early on. And so what really brought it to mind was a patient that I'd had who had gone through therapy, and she was really great in automatic thoughts, and her depression was over, but she just wasn't living well. And she said, you know, doctor, I'm self-critical all the time. I keep thinking of how bad I am and how inept I am. And I said, yeah, but we've done all this automatic thought and the sheets, and you've done so well in that. You always have the great rational response. He says, yeah, I know, but it hasn't taken. So then I asked her the critical question, which is, how long has this been going on? And she said, ever since she was a child. So it turned out that when she was about 7 or 8 years old, and she had a 6-year-old sister, the father had died. The mother had to become a breadwinner. Without going into all the details, the mother really was coming down hard on the patient. And maybe she was one of these orchid children, because not everybody incorporates the parent's self-criticism. Maybe the mother wasn't critical all the time. But in any event, the truth, the schema memory that what represented truth to her was that she was a bad kid because her mother had implied she was a bad kid. And there was no way to reason her out of this. But I figured that this memory was like an abscess, and it had to come to the surface. And so we did a role play. First I role played her mother and made her cry as I was criticizing her for everything. And then she role played the mother, and she almost made me cry. And then what happened is she then theoretically was able to integrate this childhood experience into her adult, and she could now see the childhood experience with some degree of distance and separate her adult self from what she had perceived as her child self. And
so what was her new understanding about her mother?
And so that's very good. So when she role-played the mother, this is very important, Judy, thank you. When she role-played the mother, she said, you know, I realized how my mother must have felt after all her husband had died, and she had the 2 children, and she wasn't feeling she was being a good mother, and she had to, and so on and so forth. She said, I could now for the first time see things through my mother's eyes, and therefore, since my mother was so upset in general, I didn't have to take anything she said at face value, because it was her upset that was talking, not the way she felt about me. And the patient could spontaneously, genuinely feel that, which was the important thing. And so with the patients with personality disorders, it's often important to bring in the early developmental material. And one of the things that helps a lot, incidentally, in dealing with them is to give them another scale that we have developed just for personality disorders, which is called the PBQ, Personality Belief Questionnaire, which can get at